All right, welcome out to the shop. What's up, shopper? Here on the KTC Broadcasting. I'm Tim Johnson, your host, and Ken Link in the house with us. We are the Best in Sports show, and it's happening right here every Wednesday night. So I want to ask our listeners to join in to us. Ken, let's see what we got going on tonight, my man.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of sports. Basketball season's going on. We got playoffs finishing up in high school and college. We got ACC season coming down, getting ready for ACC tournament, and then the brackets will come out. The NCAA, we've got a lot to talk about there. And guess what? Baseball season has already started in high school.
Yes, it has.
Games have been played already this week, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to preview some teams in the area and talk about some rule changes we've got this year. And on this show, we want to provide listeners information about local, regional, and national sports. And we may have some guests on the show, and we're looking forward to being with you every Wednesday.
That's right, Ken. And I tell you, speaking of baseball, I was over at West Lincoln High School tonight. Coach Alan Chapman and the boys were playing Cherville Ironman. Scotty Hebner and there. So the score was 2-1 when I left the game. So they had suspended that game because of the weather. So we probably going to have a couple games here tonight that was suspended as well.
Yeah, that's a game I always like to attend if I can, because being a big Cherville Post 100 Legion fan, they draw kids from both of those schools on that team. So I usually get out and do a little bit of scouting. Not that Bobby Dale calls me and asks me what I think, but I do a little scouting for that.
Yeah, he loves his baseball, don't he, Ken?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, the thing about it is a lot of those kids from those high schools, they play American Legion there at Post 100 in Cherville. So Bobby Dale, he comes out too, and he scouts his players. And so, but we're going to go to a commercial, Ken, and right out of this commercial, we're going to start the show here on KTC Broadcasting, the What'sUpShopper.com, the Best in Sports show.
It's the Subway Sub of the Day. Each day of the week, you get a different 6-inch sub for just $3.50. Monday, the sweet onion chicken teriyaki sub. Tuesday, the oven roasted chicken sub. Wednesday, the turkey breast sub. Thursday, the Italian BMT sub. Friday, the tuna sub. Saturday, the Black Forest ham sub. And Sunday, the meatball marinara sub. Your choice, just $3.50. The Sub of the Day from Subway in Boulder City and the Walmart in Lincolnton.
It's a Husqvarna closeout sale on the remaining 2016 model Husqvarna mowers, including the Husqvarna zero-turn mowers at Al Lane Kubota and Motorsports in Lincoln. Come on in now for their preseason specials. Ask about 0% financing for up to 42 months. Right now, there's a big selection to choose from, and Al Lane is having a chainsaw clearance sale. Prices have been slashed. Get ready for springtime with a trip to Al Lane Kubota and Motorsports, Highway 27 east of Lincoln at the Highway 73 intersection, and online at AlLaneMotorsports.com.
When you need to find a part at a price that's right, that red and blue sign is just within sight. Roll in to Conquest and roll on. You know how good it feels when you do it yourself, and the parts you need are on a Conquest shelf. When you want some help from a fellow car lover, it's all in one place, as you'll discover. Roll in to Conquest and roll on.
Your car.
Okay, here's Ken Link and Tim Johnson back on the shop, What'sUpShopper.com Best in Sports show tonight. And to kick it off, we're going to talk a little bit of high school basketball playoffs. There are two games in the area that involve local teams. One game had the Shelby Golden Lions. They were playing North Surrey, a team that eliminated Lincoln Woods late last week in a dominating fashion. And so they knew this was going to be a tough game. And out of the gate it was. It's pretty close for a while, but North Surrey jumped out to a 10-point lead at half and stretched that out to double digits. Early in the fourth quarter, Shelby tried to come back, cut it to 6, but then North Surrey went on another quick run and got it back to double digits and pretty much coasted to a 16-point victory. 80-64, North Surrey defeated Shelby. Now, in that bracket, East Rutherford, the number 1 seed and undefeated,
Absolutely.
was playing Forest Hills. And some folks were thinking, hey, maybe East Rutherford and Shelby will meet the playoffs. Well, guess what?
Didn't happen.
Neither one of them made it.
Two good basketball teams.
Absolutely. Forest Hills with a big upset over East Rutherford, 87-84.
Well, I was amazed what North Surrey did to Lincoln, Ken.
Oh yeah, it wasn't a game from the first quarter. They dominated. It was really stunning how bad they beat them.
And Coach Cowie called 2 timeouts in the first quarter. Is that correct?
That's correct. Trying to stem the tide, but it just didn't work. And it was a 34-point victory as it turned out, and tough way for the Wolves to end the season, but they got beat by a better team.
Well, how about Lincoln Charter beating Winston-Salem Prep last year? Well, actually this year. And last year they played them in the finals of the was it the Western part?
Western finals, and got beat on a buzzer beater, 3-pointer. They lost 63-60. So last night they were playing Winston-Salem Prep, the number 1 seed in the West. Lincoln Charter's number 3 seed. And after the first couple minutes of the game, Lincoln Charter took the lead. And guess what? They never gave it up. They had a 10-point lead at half, 28-18, holding Winston-Salem Prep to 18 points was amazing. I understand they came out in a man-to-man, which is a little different than what they normally play. They play a lot of zone.
Yeah, run the zone. And so they come out in a man-to-man. So, in other words, they had that plan going in that game. I guarantee you they did.
Yeah.
I bet the coach said, hey, guys, we're going to change our defense up. We're going to put pressure on them. And from that point on, that probably was the outcome of the game because of the defensive move that the coach made.
Yeah, and they got the momentum, and they kept the pressure on. I understand that it's right around 10, 12 points third quarter. Right at the end of the quarter, I think Winston-Salem was trying to get a shot off, and they shot it pretty early with a few seconds left. Lincoln Charter come down and nailed a 3 to go up by 15, and that's pretty much it. That was too big a hill to climb. They end up winning by 10, 75-65. Sweet revenge for Winston-Salem. They were looking forward to this game because they did get knocked out. And Winston-Salem Prep had won the Western Region for the past 5 years.
Well, Lincoln Charter, Ken, you've got some stuff right down here that I'm amazed to look at. This team is young. It's like sophomores and juniors. So, I mean, you got Cody Schubert with 18 points and 8 assists, and this kid is D1 all over. Everybody's been looking at him. Even my son had mentioned several times about how good this kid is. Also, Jackson Gabriel had 23 points, Ken. Levante Knox had 15 points, 12 rebounds. Jalen Johnson had 8 points and 14 rebounds. Remember what Evan said about London, England?
Yeah, he said when he hit a 3, he'd say, "Hey, there's London, England from across the pond." Well, he was. I guess his freshman year he was at North Lincoln, but now he's at Lincoln Charter, and he's
playing well.
He's playing well. The 5 leading scorers last night, all of them would be back. 2 are sophomores and 3 are juniors. So this team is set to be tough for another year for sure.
So these kids ain't leaving early.
No.
Well, that's great, Ken. That's some good work there for you, too.
Now they have to play. They're going to have to play in Western 1A region, Mount Airy, who is, by the way, 11 seed. But they got there. I mean, it don't matter what seed you are if you got there. So that's who they play.
From what I've recognized, Ken, the mountain teams have got really good basketball teams, good programs. So Lincoln Charter, to me, I mean, you want to pick them. You want to be favorite because they're from our area. But all those mountain teams, they can play basketball.
Oh, they can play, and it's a little different football. Football, they play pretty tough, but then when they get sometimes in the playoffs, they run up against teams that have a lot more speed, and they can't compete as well. But they usually have pretty good basketball teams.
So the regional championship Saturday, the Western 2A. This is the Western 2A for the regional championship Saturday. Western 2A, Forest Hills, number 4 seed, 25-4. They're taking on North Surrey, the number 5 seed, 26-4. In the Eastern 2A, Green Central, who's the number 1 seed, 25-1. They'll be they're taking on Northside Jacksonville, who is undefeated, 28-0, number 2 seed. And then you have the Western 1A, number 3 seed, Lincoln Charter, 28-4. They'll be taking on Mount Airy, who is, like Ken said, the number 11 seed. He's having a great year, 25-6. And then you have the Eastern 1A as well. Castro Heights, number 1 seed, 30-1. That is, correct me, 31. And then you have the number 9 seed, and that is Riverside Martin, 24-3. That's some great basketball.
Yeah, some great basketball. And those will be this Saturday. For the West Regionals, they may have come out later today, but it's going to be either Greensboro or Winston-Salem. They was going to make a decision on that sometime today. So that's where the Westerns will be played, either Greensboro or Winston-Salem.
And also, Ken, speaking of basketball, high school basketball, the basketball coach down at East Lincoln, Chip Ashley, he resigned this first of the week. Great basketball coach. I'm telling you, Ken, he had a great season without his star player, Say Surratt, who transferred to Lincoln.
Oh, yeah, they were very competitive, and a couple of guys that was on the team last year in sort of a supporting role stepped up and played more of a lead role this year, and they had a good basketball team. And even though Lincoln beat them 4 times, they were in every one of those games, So he did a great job. He's been associated with East Lincoln basketball for a long time, and he filled in after Neil Hodge retired last year, so right. He planned on filling in 1 year and then retiring from basketball. He's still going to teach at school.
Absolutely. And, Ken, speaking of East Lincoln High School and resigning stuff, their coach, Mike Bice. I mean, this guy has won 2 state championships in high school football. He's an unbelievable football coach. He resigned. Also, the athletic director. They got 3 positions there at East Lincoln High School to
yeah,
fill.
they got 3 to fill. I think it's been rumored a little bit about Bice may retire, so I think the administration probably wasn't surprised, and they may have already been thinking about those positions because they're going to have to fill the AD spot and also the football spot. And then same thing with Ashley, knowing that he was only going to do it for a year. They probably anticipating that. Now, I don't have any rumors about who they're thinking about, but those are all 3 spots that got to be filled before the next school year.
Well, I know Coach Bice is a great coach. He's a great man. Took some time, talked to him about 45 minutes. He's going to call our show. We're going to have him on our show in a couple weeks, as well as some other real important people, too, some great guests that we got lined up. We know we got a few people out there listening to us. I know Scott Cloninger's listening to it. I want to say hello to Scott. And if there's like I say, we're going to take some phone calls, too, as we go into the show, into the weeks as we come to. So we're kind of getting our feet wet, Ken.
Yeah, I've got another Scott out there listening. My brother, Scott Link, huge Lincoln football fan.
Yes, he is.
And, of course, a Carolina fan like myself, Tim's not a Carolina fan, but that's okay.
Well, I like Carolina. I'll put it to that. But I like the North Carolina State. You know what I'm saying? I've always pulled for the Wolfpack, and we're in search for a coach, Ken. So we're going to –
We'll talk a little bit about that. In fact, when we come back, we'll talk some about ACC basketball and a little bit about the NC State basketball vacancy there.
All right, Ken, we're going to go to a commercial with our fine sponsors here, and we'll be back right after these messages.
The Start Something New sales event is underway at Abernathy Chrysler Jeep Dodge in Lincoln. Find out how you can get $3,000 total cash or 0% financing for 60 months and $2,500 bonus cash on the new 2016 Dodge Charger. Don't miss it, the Start Something New sales event going on now at Abernathy Chrysler Jeep Dodge, 1442 East Main Street in Lincoln. It's time to start something new at Abernathy Chrysler Jeep Dodge in Lincoln. For over 100 years, the Stamey Tysinger Funeral Home in Falston has been providing services to families of our community with care and compassion. And now the Stamey Funeral Home has added the Cremation Center along with a new name, the Stamey Tysinger Funeral Home and Cremation Center. The Stamey Tysinger Funeral Home and Cremation Center on Highway 182 in Falston, and the Stamey Funeral Home in Cherryville, located on Dixie Street in Cherryville, serving you with care and compassion in your time of need. Now's the time to head to West End Sales in Vail for some great deals on Coyote, like the Coyote UTV with top and winch starting at $11,900 and get 0% financing. And see the new Coyote 3510 34 horsepower tractor, only $17,900. And the big Coyote RX Series 4-wheel drive tractor with cab and loader starting at $37,000. And see the big line of Big Tex trailers, over 40 in stock, 3.99% financing for 54 months with approved credit. West End Sales, 110 North Highway 18 in Vail, online at westendsales.com. March winds are blowing in big savings at Renato Auto Mall in Shelby. Just listen, up to $10,200 off MSRP of the new 2016 Cadillac Escalade. Drive away in a new 2017 Honda Accord LX for $196 a month and get 0% financing for up to 66 months plus $1,000 bonus cash on the 2016 Kia Rio. And bring in your tax money for big savings on pre-owned vehicles too. Only at Renato Auto Mall, 4423 East Dixon Boulevard in Shelby, right below the Cleveland Mall.
All right, we're back here at the KTC Broadcasting Studios. Tim Johnson, Ken Link on a Wednesday nights. Like I said, Ken, we're here every Wednesday night from 7 to 8. Like to have all our listeners to check in and listen to us. We talk about sports. It's the best in sports show. And Ken, speaking of the ACC basketball, like we was talking about before we went to our break, NC State, they need a coach, Ken. Goffrey has did a great job at NC State for about 7 or 8 years, and now it's time to hopefully get the coach who's going to be there for, I hope, for 10, 15 years, you know.
Well, that's one of the things with NC State. I think you had Sendek that was there for maybe 11 years, but since Valvano, you haven't had a coach that stay there long term. Most of them have been 5, 6, 7 years, except Sendek maybe 10, 11, but
Sendek did a good job. They just didn't like his offense, you know, from my understanding.
Yeah, he had them in the tournament every year. So, I mean, you know, that's pretty good. But they were looking for somebody to step up a level. They wanted somebody to compete with the Dukes and Carolinas. And they made a change. But here's the thing. How do they feel about that now?
Well, what's your opinion on the next coach? What do they need to look for? Somebody young or maybe somebody already proven that's been there, like maybe a Pearl or somebody like that, or even I like the young kid from down at Wilmington.
Yeah, there's several good young coaches out there. Now they're going to have to decide. If they get the bigger name coach they get, they're going to have to get their checkbook out. They're going to have to pay. And, you know, the recent salaries that the coaches are getting paid, it escalates things. It was interesting. I was looking at the salaries coaches are making, and the one making the biggest salary is Coach K at Duke, and I think he was around $7 million a year. And you had Calipari, who's around I think $6 million, and
did you tell me that Roy Williams was making what, $2 million?
He's making $1.98 million, and they got a clause in there where he could make maybe $1 million in bonus. But he's making
What was Goffrey making? Mark Goffrey.
Yeah,
what was he making?
He was making about around $3 million.
Now, how's he making around $3 million, and Roy's making $1.9 million a year? Now I don't understand that, Ken. This guy's won how many national championships?
More than you know, he's won 2 national championships, and how many has Godfrey won? You know, in the ACC. You know that.
Well, we need Archie Miller. That's who I hope we get, Archie Miller, or the guy from Wichita State.
Well, you've got
Greg Marshall. Is that right?
Yeah, you got Greg Marshall from Wichita State, who's making 3.3. You got Chris Mack from Xavier that's been mentioned.
He's good.
He's 1.2, and Archie Miller Dayton making about 3. So Chris Mack's the guy's not making as much money. And you got the guy you mentioned, UNC Wilmington guy.
Yes.
Let
me tell you somebody I've also heard too. You might like this. Pitino's son, Rick Pitino's son.
Yeah, and you know that'd be good to get a name there. The thing about NC State, some folks said, well, that's not really a good basketball job. I disagree. I mean, you got history there, you got a big fan base, and you're in the ACC with Hall of Fame coaches. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, you might say, well, that's the reason I don't want to be there. I got to compete against those guys. But if you really want to be the best, you're a good young coach coming up the ladder, I think it'd be an opportunity.
Yeah,
build a program.
Yeah. And like Archie Miller, he went to NC State. He played there. Everybody knows he met his wife there, and so she sent out a recent tweet here lately. Is about the fact that she would like to come back to state. Go Wolfpack and stuff like that. So you never know. I mean, you don't know, but I'm sure that They're gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to go out and get them a young coach. I want a young coach.
Yeah.
The kid from Wilmington would be great. Greg Marshall, man, he'd be awesome too. So, but like you said, they're gonna have to break out the checkbook to get somebody like him or Archie
Yeah,
Miller.
because you got to pay. You got to pay. And one negative is Kay Yao, the athletic director, who has already made it public that she's going to retire in 2019, which may be an issue for a coach, because if you come in there and maybe you struggle first 2 years, and now you got a new AD there that didn't hire you, then you're worrying about your job security. And so that's a little bit of thing that factors in there as well. That she is retiring, and there will be a new AD.
Right. Well, how about the ACC tournament? Who you picking to win the ACC tournament? Is Carolina going to be a number 1 seed overall in the NCAA final? The Final Fours.
It probably depends on what they do in the ACC tournament. It's my feeling that the ACC is such a tough league. If you win the regular season and do well in your conference tournament,
you're going to get a 1 seed.
You should get a 1. Now, I don't know what they'll do there. Carolina, the regular season come to end, and Carolina has secured the number 1 seed for the ACC tournament because they have 4 losses. And even if Duke would beat them Saturday and they would tie with either Louisville or Notre Dame, they have beaten them head-to-head, so they still will get the number 1 seed in the ACC tournament. So you got Carolina with 4 conference losses. You got Louisville and Notre Dame with 5 conference losses, who by the way, play each other their last conference game. And then you got Duke and Florida State with 6 losses. And then you got 3 teams there with 7 losses, Miami, Virginia, and Virginia Tech. And I think all of those are going to make the NCAA. And Syracuse might make it. I mean, ACC could have as many 9 teams go into the NCAA. We'll have to see, but that's what it's looking like.
Well, who's your pick for the ACC tournament? I mean, if Carolina, of course, Carolina's number 1. You got Carolina, but how about Louisville? I like their game now, Ken.
Yeah,
they're putting it together.
Yeah, Louisville,
inside and outside.
And they destroyed Syracuse the other night. They really did. And they've got a good team. If I had to say, if somebody said pick 2 teams and bet those 2 against the rest of the league, I'd probably take Carolina and Louisville as the ones that are more likely to win it. But it's ACC tournament. Anything could happen. You just never know.
Well, I'll tell you something about Florida State, Ken. They got the tallest team, one of the tallest teams in the NCAA. I mean, their front line's unbelievable. What is it, 6'10", 6'8"?
Yeah, they got
average?
some big guys. They got some big guys. And
some athletes.
But they're sort of up and down. At times they've looked just tremendous, and other times they go out and they lay an egg and just don't do a whole lot in a game. So they're sort of inconsistent. Early in the year, I thought they really looked great, but they've faltered a little bit down the stretch here.
How about the UCLA Bruins and the Villanova and Kansas? How about them?
Well, talk about some of the top teams out there. I guess in the latest AP poll, Kansas is rated number 1. Gonzaga was there for probably a month or more, and their schedule wasn't nearly as hard as a lot of teams here. And they got beat the other night, and after they got beat, they dropped down to 4th in the AP rankings. But you got Kansas, you got Villanova, who I think they've had a few injuries, but they'll be tough in the tournament. I mean, they're defending champion. I think they'll be tough in the tournament.
I like their coach.
Yeah, and
they got a good coach.
And there's some other good teams. Like I say, Louisville, Kentucky's been up and down. It's hard to say who would be the favorite to try to win the NCAA until the brackets all come out and you look at them and see where everybody ends up.
Right. Okay, Ken. Well, that's good, buddy. Also, speaking of basketball, big breaking news today on Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I heard that he had a pretty significant injury and is going to miss a lot of time.
A grade 2 MCL, and I think that's Kevin Hastings' favorite basketball player. Grade 2 MCL.
Yeah, I think he is one of his favorites.
He's out. He's out for 4 weeks automatically, Ken. Automatically out for 4 weeks, and he will be reevaluated after 4 weeks, so he could be out for the whole year. That's going to hurt the Golden State Warriors.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because obviously he's a great player, and he had they'd got the chemistry going there with the other players they have there, and now they'll have to adjust. And obviously you got some good players on that team, and with Curry and Klay Thomas and Green and those folks. But taking Durant out, it makes a big difference.
How about the Hornets? Are they going to make the playoffs? Do they have a chance?
I would say no. I mean, obviously, mathematically, they got a chance, but with how they're playing here recently, and they've been hit with some injury, and they just don't have enough quality depth to make up for the injuries when they get hit with them. So I don't think they'll make the playoffs.
Would you say that Cleveland now is the front runner since Durant's got hurt?
Well,
Would you
I mean,
put LeBron in there?
yeah. You'd have to say that. I mean, obviously, I think Cleveland's going to be there coming out of the East, and Golden State, I think, will still be the team coming out of the West, even though it'll be a little harder now. But
how about Houston?
Well, like I say, the West got some good teams there, and so it's a harder fight for Golden to come out of the West than Cleveland is come out of the East, in my opinion. So
right.
Especially with Durant down now.
Well, NFL football, Ken, I've got some information here. It looks like Adrian Peterson's not going to be a Minnesota Viking this year. It looks like they've let him loose as a free agent. Also, Jamal Charles is a free agent. We got Barry Church from the Cowboys and J.J. Wilcox. Both of them are going to be free agents. And then, of course, Morris Claiborne. But I think Dallas might bring Claiborne back. Also, Le'Veon Bell of the Pittsburgh Steelers, they franchised him. And let's see, Chandler Jones was franchised. Let's see, we had Kirk Cousins. Now, here's the thing about Kirk Cousins. He's the second year he's been franchised. Could the Redskins think about trading him for the number 2 pick in the draft?
Well, they could.
That's the rumor.
Yeah, they could. I mean, it's depends on what they want the future to be. I mean, if he's not happy and
you know who's got the number 2 pick, don't you? The 49ers.
Yeah.
And the quarterback, the head coach there now, he was the one who was all in for Cousins when they drafted him out of college, out of Michigan State's where he came from. So,
and I see the Panthers franchise tag K1 short, and
K1.
That's I knew that was going to happen. I think the tag on that is going to be about $14.8 million, and he will sign it. I think.
Oh yeah,
it won't be a problem there, and then they'll go from there. It's probably a smart move as far as the Panthers. See how he plays this year and see what they got next year, whether they can sign him long term or consider franchising him another time. Which a lot of players don't like that if you do that twice to him.
Jason Pierre-Paul, I was hoping it wouldn't franchise him. Hoping let him go so Dallas could pick him up. Man, he looked good in the Cowboys uniform. And Melvin Ingram too. He was franchised as well. So Darrelle Revis, he's probably a future Hall of Famer. Would you think so? The Jets let him go.
Yeah, after he got into his legal trouble. Yeah. When you're out there and you're a well-known athlete, and I know alcohol gets involved some, but you got to keep your head because you can easily get in trouble, and that's what it seems like happened here.
You got to keep your guard up.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to do that.
All right, Ken, we're going to go to a commercial, and we'll be back after this fine messages here on The Best in Sports. It's Tim Johnson and Ken Link.
The lowest prices on quality automobiles just got lower at Milholland Automotive in Lincoln. Milholland Automotive in Lincoln is having a year-end clearance sale. Prices have been slashed on every unit in stock. Save thousands of dollars on your next vehicle. At Milholland Automotive in Lincoln, you get 1.9% financing with approved credit, and they are the king of zero money down, plus a warranty on every vehicle. Milholland Automotive, 423 West Main Street in Lincoln, online at milhollandautomotive.com. It's the best deal of the year right now at Abernathy's Chevrolet Buick GMC in Lincoln. Save big during Abernathy's pre-owned inventory blowout sale. They all gotta go. Check out the great deals on cars, trucks, SUVs, and vans. Save thousands of dollars. Find out why more people buy again and again from Abernathy's Chevrolet Buick GMC in Lincoln. Come experience the Abernathy Advantage today at Abernathy's Chevrolet Buick GMC, 1445 East Main Street in Lincoln, online at abernathychevrolet.com. It's like going on vacation without leaving town at the Glen Oaks Golf Club in Maiden. Sure, there's golf, but there's a whole lot more, like their swimming pool, driving range, picnic shelter, and their new clubhouse, featuring a snack bar and a big banquet room. Great for weddings, receptions, class and family reunions. So for a fun day of golf and much, much more, see Glen Oaks Golf Course. Call 828-428-2451. 828-428-2451. Online at glenoaksgolf.com. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County for over 75 years. Customer service is a priority at First Federal Savings Bank, where they want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, products, and services of larger banks with hometown people that you see throughout your community. They live here, they work here, and this community matters to the people at First Federal Savings Bank. First Federal Savings Bank has 4 convenient locations in downtown Lincoln, Boger City, Denver, and West Lincoln. Stop in and visit and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender. ATV fans, the 2017 Yamaha Grizzly and Kodiak 700s are at Full Throttle Power Sports in Lowell. The more powerful than ever Grizzly is engineered for the all-day trail excursions on the toughest terrain. And the Kodiak 700 delivers class-best performance and value, starting at just $69.99. Visit Full Throttle Power Sports today. Yamaha ATVs, real world tough. Full Throttle Power Sports, exit 22 at I-85 in Lowell. ATV fans, the 2017 Yamaha Grizzly and Kodiak 700s are at Full Throttle Power Sports in Lowell. The more powerful than ever Grizzly is engineered for the all-day trail excursions on the toughest terrain. And the Kodiak 700 delivers class-best performance and value, starting at just $69.99. Visit Full Throttle Power Sports today. Yamaha ATVs, real world tough. Full Throttle Power Sports, exit 22 at I-85 in Lowell. Dine in, carry out, or use their convenient drive-through window at Mitchum's Kitchen in Vail. You'll find Northbrook's finest in food. As a matter of fact, the finest food anywhere. And for a special treat, order one of the big bloomin' onions. From barbecue to fish to steaks, hamburgers and hot dogs, they've got it all at Mitchum's Kitchen in Vail. Open for breakfast too. And be sure to like them on Facebook for their specials and Sunday lunch menus. And they do catering no matter how big or small. Call Mitchum's Kitchen today, located at the intersection of Highway 27 West and Highway 274 in Vail.
We're back on the shop. What's up, shopper? The best in sports. Ken Link, Mr. Baseball. Tim Johnson here with you on a Wednesday night. We're here every Wednesday, Ken, from 7 to 8.
We'll be here. And baseball, something that I like to talk about. The baseball season has started in high school. There are games that started Monday, and there have already been several games played. What we'd like to do is review some of the local teams and their upcoming season, and talk a little bit maybe how they've started out of the gate today. We had in this area, if you extend the area a little bit, last year we had 2 state champions, the Cherryville Ironmen and, of course, the East Rutherford Cavaliers. If you extend out a little bit, with Bobby Dale Reynolds with his 6th 2A North Carolina championship.
How many has he won overall, Ken?
I
mean, Kent Legion.
I was keeping up with it. I about lost count.
Somebody said 15.
Well, it may be right. I know he's got 5 Legion, 6 state as a coach. And then he's got 1 as assistant coach. I think he's got 1 as a player. So he's got a lot. There's no doubt about that.
He's won on about every level. I mean,
Yeah.
even in the World Series, if you think about it, he's got runner-up twice in the American Legion World Series.
Yeah, and he went in last year. His team went in as a 23rd seed.
Yeah.
They finished 10-6 in the conference. And Tim and I talked to him early in the spring last year, and I remember he told us that he just didn't have the hitting. That he said that I don't know how we do in the regular season. We're going to try to get ready for the playoffs. Well, he got ready for the playoffs, and again, I don't know whether it should be surprising, but again went out and won another championship.
Yeah, really, there was only 1 game, I think, that he had that was actually close. Everything else was
He
4
had
or 5 runs.
Yeah, he had 1 stud on the mound, and he used it. And I think they beat South Granville, and South Granville coach said after the game, these guys can hit. So we played 4A schools. This is the best hitting team we run across.
Well, that's his philosophy, scoring runs.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, SD7, West Lincoln High School. The Rebels are coached by Alan Chapman. I know Alan well. He coached both of my boys in high school. Alan, not only a great coach, but a great person. He's great for the kids. Allen's never won a state championship, but he's been there at the finals of the Western Regionals. I think 2 or 3 times, Ken.
Yeah.
He's had some great baseball players. Bobby Dale can testify to that. Chapman sends him a lot of great players up there to the post 100. This year he's got Dalton Brooks, who was All-State last year as a pitcher. Also Dallas Bridges, know Dallas and Dalton well, and his son Parker Chapman, who's a great little baseball player, Ken. He can fill the position of shortstop or second base as well as anybody around here.
Yeah, he's a small kid, but he's an excellent defensive player and a really smart plug at the plate. He'll battle. You can get on, steal some bases. Smart player, obviously, with his coach, with his dad being coach. He's a smart player.
Well, I tell you, Coach Chapman, I know he's won over 300 games, or he's right at it one. But this man, without a doubt, in the state of North Carolina, is one of the best baseball coaches out there, Ken. No doubt.
Yeah.
Got East Lincoln, Coach Chris Mattill. You know a little bit about Coach Mattill. You've hung around down there and watched ball games, stuff like that. He has got a Alec Burleson, who is, I think he's going to East Carolina, Ken.
Yeah, I know
He's
he's one of the best pitchers in this area, and he's been looked at and recruited the last couple of years.
Heavy.
He's left-hander, good pitcher.
He can throw it.
Yeah.
He's accurate. He's around the plate. He's got 3 or 4 different kind of pitches: fastball, curveball, changeup. I think he's got a slider or 2. Excellent young man. He's a big kid too, big strong kid. So he's only going to get better, and I'm pretty sure he's going to East Carolina. So they're getting one heck of a baseball player there at East Carolina.
And they've got some other players down there. Zach Hester, who actually was where he lived, he was able to be on the Cherryville Post 100 Legion team last year. And I think I saw where he signed to play, I believe, at Brevard. So he's another player down there. And Coach Mattill, he likes to use that speed, and he'll play some small ball.
He'll run.
He will make you execute on defense.
Right, yeah. He wants you to make the mistake so he can take extra bases and stuff like that. But you're right, Ken. He can play small ball. He's had some really great baseball players, Addison Parrish. I remember Addison playing, and also Clay Hodges. I mean, that's he was the leadoff batter.
There was a speedster.
There was a speedster, yeah. He could cover the outfield and can hit too. And, of course, Danny Sullivan. I'm telling you, Ken, Danny Sullivan's on his way. He's at Gardner-Webb now. He's tearing it up there. So Danny Sullivan went to East Lincoln, and Darren Legion, I think 3 years ago.
Yeah, he was Area 4 Player of the Year and deserved it. I mean, at the end of the season, he was like you couldn't get him out. I mean, he was that hot at the end of the season. I think he hit almost 500 there at the end. He was unbelievable.
And Matill's a great coach. And the rumor is Mattill may get the athletic director at East Lincoln High School. That's what I was told. So.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So good coach.
Yeah,
really good coach. All right, Lincoln High School, Ken. Cole Sigmund. We know Cole.
Yeah.
Cole's a great baseball coach. But Cole's not as fortunate as Coach Chapman or Coach Mattill. I mean, he's had some good ball players. But he's got 2 ball players this year, Ken. Could be the best 2 ball players in the conference.
Yeah, they're all conference type players. I mean, you got Lane Hoover who and
Clay
Robbie,
Hodges. He's kind of like a Clay Hodges ball player.
Yeah, very speedy outfielder, good contact hitter, great defensive player, and he made the varsity team as a freshman. And the other guy, Robbie Cowie, obviously a big guy.
Yeah.
He made the team as a freshman too. Now Robbie last year he had a so-so high school season.
But talk about his Legion season.
But he
Ken.
came
this
out.
is
Bobby
unbelievable.
Dale Reynolds got him out there last year for Legion baseball, and Robbie just blossomed. I watched him. He hit 9 home runs, and some of those were some moonshots, I'm telling you. He played great defense in the outfield, and he's just blossomed. He hit over 400. He was the best player on Post 100's team last year. And if he picks up in high school
where he left off, look out.
He could be tough. I mean, he might be one of these things, if he does that, nobody want to pitch to him too much. But,
that's what Cole's going to run into.
Yeah,
He's going to run into that situation where, where's he going to hit Robbie at? Who's going to hit in front of Robbie and behind Robbie? Because you're going to have to protect him. We know Lane's going to be the leadoff batter. That's not a doubt.
Yeah. Or number 2, where Lane's going to get on base and going to make something happen. So you want him in a spot where he can get around the bases once he gets on there.
Right. And I tell you, Ken, Cole, I've known Cole all my life. We grew up together. Great baseball coach. Cole went to Wingate, played baseball there, pitched there. Cole's been a coach at Lincoln High School for years. He's also the athletic director at Lincoln High School. He took over for Coach Cloninger. So, he deserves a chance to get a good team and take them to the playoffs. I want to see Cole coach.
Yeah,
I want to see him do that.
Lincoln did better last year. Lincoln, they didn't make the playoffs, and they haven't for a lot of years, but they won a lot more games last year. So I'm hoping they step up and improve some. We'll see how the supporting cast around Hoover and Cowie do, but I'm pulling for them. Actually, in their first game, they had a big win. Now, early games, non-conference, you don't know, but that should be a confidence booster that they did have a big win in their first opening game.
Well, North Lincoln High School, let's see, the North Piedmont 3A, 4A. North Lincoln is coached by Andrew Belt. I know Andrew. They tied. Now, here's an interesting concept here. They tied for the conference title last year with Lake Norman Charter, and it's like nobody knows about it.
Yeah, and North Lincoln got a good program down there. And think about this. North Lincoln will be coming into the new alignment league that all the Lincoln County public schools will be in. So the South Fork 2A athletic will start in the fall. So North Lincoln will be coming over in the league with West Lincoln and East Lincoln and Lincoln. Guess who else comes over? Lake Norman.
Lake Norman.
Who tied with them last year. So you got some two schools coming in. It's got some good baseball programs.
They got talent.
Yeah. I mean, that's a 3A, 4A league. And so that was tough competition. North Lincoln did well.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of state championships, how about you Cherryville Ironman last year? Scotty Hebner coaching his Cherryville High School baseball, taking them all the way to the state championship game. And what a great year they had.
Yeah, they had a great year and had a great championship series against the team. He had
was that Whiteville? Was it Whiteville?
What
was that?
It was South Granville.
South Granville.
They knocked Whiteville out.
That's okay.
And they played South Granville, and South Granville had a pitcher, a left-hander, whose ERA coming into the championship series was 0.000. A tough, hard-throwing lefty, and Cherryville found a way to beat him in a low-scoring game and end up winning that championship. Noah Aker was the MVP of the series.
Good baseball player. He's
a
post 400 product.
Oh yeah, and you got they lost a couple of players, Randall Long and Ray Sinsing, but I've got news for you. They got almost everybody back. They only lost 3 or 4 players.
Noah Aker's coming back too?
Oh yeah.
Tyler Sanders?
Yes.
Austin Treadway?
Yes. Will Walker, who done some closing for him on the mound. They've got some good players that's coming back, so they're, I think, loaded, and I'm sure they're looking to try to go deep and try to get another state championship.
And also Lincoln Charter, too, coached by Scott Clark. They finished second to Cherryville. Now, they had a pretty good baseball team last year, Ken.
Yes, then it was Scott Clark's first year, and they had a good team last year, finishing, I think they were 11-3 in the conference with Cherryville. So they had a good team last year, and they got some good players on there.
They got a young man that you might recognize. Nick Roser and Cameron Reynolds. Does that Reynolds ring a bell?
Yeah, Reynolds rings a bell. So I think he's signed to play somewhere. Now, Nick Rosser is a kid who hit a lot of home runs last year and pitched for him. And I don't know about where he might be playing at the next level, but I know he's a talented player as well. And
Highland Tech coach Blake McLemore, and I got a score last night on Highland Tech. I think it was like 15-1. One of their ball players is a family friend of mine. His name is Haney. I'm trying to think of his first name. Zach Haney. Zach Haney plays for Highland Tech. He's a freshman this year, and his grandmother and grandfather are real proud of him. That's Mike Stamey and Kathy Stamey. So they got Brandon Kraft. Brandon is a Cherryville post 100 ball player. Chase Crocker and Taylor Hughes and Landon Burr.
Yeah, those first 3 you mentioned were on the post 100 team last year. I think Hughes pitched a little bit for him on the varsity before he went down and joined the junior varsity team for the rest of the year. But all 3 of those should be back post 100 this year.
That sounds good, Ken. I mean, the post 100 team lost, one player off that team last year?
Yeah, they should have everybody back but one or two players, and they were young last year and had a disappointing year for Bobby Reynolds. They had a losing season, actually, so I'm looking forward to them being better this year, and I think Bobby Dale Reynolds will be trying to whip them into shape to do that.
Sounds great. Well, Ken, we're going to go to a commercial, and we'll come back, and we'll finish our show here on Wednesday nights.
When you need a dentist you can depend on and trust, think of Dr. John Les Cloninger. Les is the longest practicing of the Cloninger family of dentists. The office of Dr. John Les Cloninger will work with you and your insurance, and new patients are welcome. For preventative, cosmetic, and restorative dental care for your family, come to Les Cloninger. Located on Magnolia Street just off Laurel behind Town & Country Shopping Center in Lincoln. Call 704-732-3336. Open Monday through Thursday. Dr. John Les Cloninger.
Think your dream home is out of reach? Think again. At Silver Point Homes in Lincoln, they provide quality custom construction and the luxury amenities you want at an exceptional value. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or an empty nester looking to downsize, we have the perfect home for you. Visit silverpointhomes.com to learn more or stop by our Lincoln Sales Center to tour our model homes. Let our friendly staff help you visualize your dream. Silver Point Homes, making your dream home a reality. New models now on display. Silver Point Homes, East Main Street, Lincoln.
There's a storm coming. We may not know its path, but your independent auto owner's insurance agent knows no matter what happens, we'll be there when you need us most. Strong through every storm. That's how it's been for our first 100 years, and how it will be for generations to come.
Your local auto owner's insurance agency is East Lincoln Insurance Agency on Highway 16 in Denver. Call 704-483-3243.
We make a joyful noise cheering our favorite high school football teams on Friday nights and our favorite college teams on Saturday. The Family of Faith at Ryan Heights United Methodist Church would like to invite you to come and make a joyful noise for the Lord on Sundays. Sunday school is at 10 and worship is at 11. Ryan Heights United Methodist Church is in Lincolnton on Madison Street, just up from Betty Ross Park. Come make a joyful noise with us.
Ken Link back on Best in Sports Show. We been talking baseball. I want to continue to talk a little bit of baseball. We've covered some teams in the area. Don't want to forget about a few of the Cleveland County teams. Crest, who had a great season last year, won that conference, went deep into the playoffs, I think to the fourth round before they lost. And Burns, who didn't have such a great year last year, but they're coming back, and they won their first game. So those are a couple of games and teams in Lincoln, outside of Lincoln County, Gaston County area, and Cleveland County that we'll be talking about more as the shows progress on Wednesday night. One thing I want to talk a little bit about is rule changes. Pitch count. In the past, you had the rule about a certain number of innings you could only pitch over a 72-hour period. Well, that is all out the window for high school baseball this year, and it's also out the window for American Legion baseball. It's now about pitch counts. Each pitch you throw will be counted in a game, and depending on the number of pitches you throw, you're going to have to take required mandatory days of rest. And this is sort of how it goes in a nutshell. At high school level, both for junior varsity and varsity, you cannot the maximum number of pitches you can throw in a game is 105. You have to, after 105, you have to stop. Now, if you're pitching to a hitter, and during that at bat you hit 105, you can finish pitching to that hitter.
But 105, Ken, when you get to that 105 pitch mark, you're done for pretty much that whole entire week. Is that correct?
You're done. You got to take 4 days of rest off. That's 4 calendar days you have to take off before you can get on that mound and pitch again. Now, if you throw between 76 and 105 pitches, you got 4 days off. If you throw between 61 and 75 pitches, you got to take 3 days off. If you throw between 45 And 60 pitches, that's 2 days. If you throw between 45 and 60, that's 1 day. I'm sorry. If you throw between 31 and 45, that's 1 day.
1 day, yes, that's correct.
If you throw 1 to 30, you don't have to take a day off for rest, but you cannot pitch 3 consecutive days. So let's say you pitch and you throw 10 pitches. In high school, since you're under the 30 mark, you can throw the next day 28 pitches. But you, after those 2 consecutive days, you have to take a day off.
You have to take a day off.
Take a day off. Now, Legion's a little different. It's the same limit on the juniors. On the seniors, the limit's 120.
So you mean juniors? You're talking about juniors as in grade level,
No.
and seniors?
Yeah, I'm talking about Junior Legion versus
JV. Okay,
Junior
okay.
Legion versus
our
seniors,
listeners-
senior Legion.
Want to make sure our
Yeah. So the seniors
listeners out there understand that.
So the seniors, 120 is the max. Now the ranges are the same, except when you get down to below at the bottom range, the Legion is 1 to 45 pitches. You have to take a day off. They don't have the breakdown of 1 to 30 and 31 to.
You're just done for that day.
You have to take a day off. It don't matter whether you throw 5 pitches or you throw 40 pitches. You're
Right.
taking a day off. Now, where it's going to matter the most is when you get in tournaments. In high school, those rules I explained are there all the way through the playoffs till you get to the state championship final series, which is played over 2 days. It's played on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. I mean, Friday and Saturday, 2 games on Saturday if necessary.
Right.
So because of that, 120 pitches max you can throw in that series. You can combine your pitches.
60-60.
Yeah, you
Or
60-60 or
70-50.
70-50 or whatever. As long as you don't go over 120, you can pitch in all 3 games if you go 3 games. But you can't exceed 120.
20 pitches in,
Okay.
right, in a weekend, in other words.
Now, the Legion doesn't change. Where what the rules of Legion are in place all the way through it. Where it's going to hit you is when you get into state tournaments and regional tournaments.
You better have some pitching. You better have a lot of it.
Because if your ace goes out there and he hits the max range, he's done for 4 calendar days, which means he's not going to pitch in the championship game if he was starting pitcher if you make it there in the state and regionals.
Well, I tell you, Kim, about what you're saying, it sounds like to me you better have some kids who can hit the ball and score some runs.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take advantage on them days when that ace pitcher's not pitching, or if that team gets in trouble with pitching.
Absolutely.
Score runs.
Absolutely. And here's the thing.
It's more of an offensive.
Yeah, you got to think
protecting the pitcher.
You got to think about it. You got to think about when you need to take that pitcher out. If I do, can I win this game? And how important is it that I have somebody really good on the mound
tomorrow night
or at the end of this game?
Right.
And I looked at a couple of scores, and there was some pitchers hit the limit in a couple of games. I know West Lincoln won their first game 2-1. It went 8 innings. Well, Dalton Bridge pitched 7 innings, but he hit his 105 limit, so he couldn't go out there at the 8th. Yeah. So they had to bring another guy in.
Right.
So that's just something that you got to look at and be concerned about with your strategy going forward. You got to have some pitching.
And we're also going to talk about some travel baseball too. I know there's a lot of young kids out there that play travel baseball. I know my children did, and I got a lot of friends that play travel ball. And we're going to talk about the fact of pitching too, Ken, and how these young kids throw so many pitches that we'll get into that as the season goes.
The reason for these rules are just what Tim's talking
Protect
about.
their arms.
Trying to protect arms. That's the whole reason behind it. And there's good science behind why it's been done this way.
Right, absolutely. Well, Ken, that's some great insight into pitching rules of high school baseball and, of course, your American Legion too. And speaking of American Legion, you know, Shelby holds the World Series American Legion every year, so that's we're right down the road from Shelby.
Yeah, and at this show, we're going to really cover American Legion baseball.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I really wanted to do in this show, and we'll cover state playoffs, state play, regional play, right up in leading up to the World Series in Shelby, which, by the way, KTC Broadcasting is the official radio broadcast for the World Series. They will broadcast all 15 games on the radio.
And also, Ken, Lincoln Lincoln County High School football. Tell them what we got coming up in July about that.
Well, Tim and I are planning on doing a Lincoln County preview show each Friday, at least a half an hour show where we talk about the Lincoln County football teams and preview what's going on there and what's going to be happening in their upcoming games.
Yeah, we talking about a practice report. We're going to go to the practices and stuff like that. And we're talking about North Lincoln, Lincoln High School, East Lincoln, and West Lincoln. We're going to go out there, done talk to the coaches, got everything set up. So we're going to go out there, do practice report, player report, coaches report too. We're going to get in the minds and heads of the coaches and stuff and see what they're thinking, Ken, and see how they bring their talent from the JV team. You know, you start from the JV team all the way up to the varsity. You know, and look at the young kids out there and the promising futures of some of these young men too.
Yeah. One thing we want to hit before we get off tonight. This has been the week of the Daytona 500, which is the World Series, really, of NASCAR. Only sport where you have your best and biggest event at the beginning of the season, not at the end.
Yeah,
But
it's a Super Bowl of racing.
Yeah, it is. And the Daytona 500 did happen, and you might say one word was unpredictable, had lots of wrecks. Only 25 of the 40 cars that started were running at the end.
And Kurt Busch won the race.
Kurt Busch won the race. He led one lap.
The last lap.
The one that counted.
That's right. That's all that matters.
Chase Elliott had a good day. He won one of the dual races. He sat on the pole. He led one of the first stages, and he was in position with 2 laps to go, and he ran out of gas.
And I talked that week to Mr. Dean Noble. Dean is the senior vice president of Joe Gibbs Racing, and so we're going to have some guest people coming on our show talking. Hopefully we get Joe on. And Dean's a super guy. And so Dean's going to line us up with that. Also being in contact with the Carolina Panthers too. So we hopefully we get Coach Ron Rivera to call our show and do a little report coming up for the NFL draft, Ken. And
we'll be talking about that
Yep.
this week. The NFL scouting combine has started. I think they're measuring and weighing folks now next couple of days.
It's wide open.
They'll be doing the drills, and you can catch that on the NFL Network if you're really interested in watching all that kind of stuff. This week, NASCAR will be in Atlanta, at the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yep.
Something called the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500. And again, you'll have the 3 stages, lap 85, lap 170, and then lap 325, which is the last lap of the race, and hopefully all the drivers will be out there trying to lead that last one.
Well, I know my father-in-law, he's listening to us, and he likes Kyle Busch. He's a big Tony Stewart fan, but since Tony retired.
But, hey, Tony never won that Daytona 500, but his driver did this past Sunday.
How about that, Kurt Busch? Yeah. So, but anyway, so we got golf too. PGA
Yeah.
We got the PGA Championship in our backyard, Ken. We're talking about Charlotte at Quail Hollow. I talked to Scott Davenport down there. Scott and I are good friends. He's the head professional there at Quail Hollow. Scott's going to call a show sometime in April. We're going to try to get him on before the Masters. I think the Masters like the second weekend in the it's the 4 majors coming up in April. But it's the 4 majors. You got the Masters. You got the U.S. Open, the British Open, and, of course, the PGA Championship.
Here.
It's right here. It's going to be here.
Yeah,
So.
and that's one thing we want to do on this show. We want to cover lots of sports. We especially want to cover sports that are big interest in this area because they're here.
Absolutely.
Like NASCAR, like the PGA event, like the American Legion World Series.
Absolutely. And we're going to cover our area, our kids, too.
Absolutely.
And we're going to highlight our coaches.
Yeah, we want to highlight them. We want to mention names here on the show, and we want to recognize them.
And also, we're going to have our lines open, too, coming up in a couple weeks. So we want you to call in, ask us questions on there, and we'll do our very best to answer that question. Now, this is not a debate show. We're not debating nothing.
No, we have opinions, but it's not an opinionated
absolutely.
thing where Tim takes one side and I take the other. Tim mentioned we do want your input. If you want to send input about the show or suggestions, you can go to info@ktcbroadcasting.com, and you can send us information, suggestions, complaints. Let us know. We want to know what you're interested in.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the Sports Talk guys, too, on Saturday mornings. You got Kevin Hastings Terry Reinhardt, and, of course, our good friend, Mr. Evan Ludwig. And so you can listen to those guys every Saturday morning. They do a great job here on KTC Broadcasting.
And we'll have some high school baseball this Friday on all 3 stations.
All righty, Ken, that's going to do it for our first show.
Okay. See
And
you next week.
Every week on Wednesday nights, 7 to 8, right here live on KTC Broadcasting, the shop. What's up, shopper? It's the best in sports with your host, Ken Link, Mr. Baseball, and Tim Johnson. We're here every Wednesday. Thank you, folks, for joining us.